So welcome to Cornerstones fall class session. This is the first time we've done a virtual class session with planning, right? We went to virtual classes this last spring because we had to, but hopefully we're going to be a little bit more organized and ready to go on these. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cornerstones as an organization. Cornerstones has been around for a long time. We opened in 1986, and for the last 35 years, we've been helping people improve their skills so they can get better jobs and helping employers train their employees so they can do better on the job. And we're really good at what we do. We have to report how much our students improve during their time with us to the state and federal governments, and they wouldn't keep funding us and giving us money to help people if we weren't actually helping them. I think that's a really important thing for our students to know, that we really do have to do a good job for you in order to keep our organization open and running. And I think even more important is the fact that we all really love what we do, and we believe we're making the communities where we live better by helping people to reach their goals and improve their work situations. Every single teacher who works at Cornerstones right now, or who has ever worked at Cornerstones in the past, has stories about specific people who we've worked with who have impressed us and surprised us and made us proud. And if you don't believe me, just ask them. They'll be happy to share a success story about a student with you. Most people think of our program as a GED program, and that's true, but it's not the whole story. We do help people who need a high school equivalency degree to prepare for their GED tests, but we also work with people who already have a high school diploma. So they might need to build up their academic skills to get a promotion at work or to start a new post-secondary training program. Lots of people, especially in an economy like the one we're in right now, decide to switch careers or need to switch careers after they've been out of school for a while, and going back to school can be a scary thing. So we help them to be as prepared as they possibly can be to return to school. We also don't think that helping someone to get their GED is the end of the story. Our goal for every student in our program is to help them go beyond the high school equivalency to a good job or a training program or post-secondary school. Completing your adult education goals is just the first phase in your journey as far as we're concerned. So you can tell we've got pretty high expectations for our students. So let's talk about what that looks like. Since you're in orientation, you've already done the first couple of steps listed here. You've taken at least part of the test of adult basic education, or TABE test, which lets us know what you already know and what you need to learn so that we can spend our time concentrating on skills you need to build. We want to put you into the classes that are going to move you towards your goals as quickly as possible, which is why we started out by giving you that test. You discuss those test results with your home site teacher, who's explained what skills you've already conquered and which ones we're going to tackle together in class. And that home site teacher or coach has also advised you which classes you should take, and that's probably how you ended up here with me this afternoon, based on your assessment results. Right now, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we're offering a combination of distance education classes and virtual classes with just a few face-to-face students thrown in on a really limited basis. Distance education is our program that's pretty self-paced. You work on your own in a program called GED Academy with the support of our distance ed coordinator, Andrew. He checks in on you and makes sure you're doing okay in the distance program. That's a pretty self-paced program though. You're working pretty much on your own. And we also offer virtual classes, which are the ones that you're going to be tuning in for this week. Those are classes that are taught online by a live instructor who meets with you in class 3 days a week. And they're kind of more like quote unquote normal school, right? The teacher will help you understand concepts and processes that you need to learn, and we'll give you time to practice and discuss and ask questions about the lesson. You might have some work to do outside of class too, depending on the classes that you're taking. We really recommend the virtual classes whenever possible. I think it's really helpful to have a teacher and classmates to work with and to get help from on a regular basis. But we also think it's a good idea for you to work in the distance ed program at the same time that you attend virtual classes. That way, if you've got 15 or 20 minutes free at a time that we don't have class, you can still jump on the computer and extend your learning. It might not seem like much, but research shows that studying for an extra 15 minutes a day can really increase your chances of completing your goal much faster. And as you continue your studies, all of us, your teachers, your coach, me, and especially you, are going to be keeping an eye on your progress towards your goal. We're going to keep track of how you're doing in many different ways, like classroom assignments, some progress tests, eventually another TABE test, but we're always going to keep our eye on that ultimate goal and how to get you there as efficiently as possible. A huge part of learning is communication. We learn by talking about what we're learning and asking questions and sharing ideas and thinking out loud. And that's not just me saying that. There's research to back it up. If you use your voice to contribute to class by sharing ideas and asking questions and sharing experiences, everybody in the class has the opportunity to learn twice as much as if you just sit still and listen to your teacher. And if you and your classmates are actively engaged in your learning, meaning that you talk and listen and ask questions and share ideas and tell others about your experiences, and especially if you make mistakes, right? You have the chance to increase your learning 3 times more than if you just follow along as your teacher talks. Making mistakes is one of the best ways that you can learn. Learning isn't just about showing up, right? That's the first step. But it's also about participating fully in the whole experience. And we're going to be talking about that more today. And just a few quick notes about the other items on this list. We expect you to be fully dressed while you're in class, whether that's in person or on screen, right? I don't want to see anybody's underwear. Cell phones are okay if they're being used for classwork, but not if you're texting or talking with friends during class. We don't get a whole lot of time together, so we want you to be with us during class, paying attention, not checking TikTok for the latest video. Obviously, we're using the internet for our virtual classes, and you might also get referred to other resources sometimes on the internet, so having access is pretty important for learning with us right now. And you probably won't take a lot of breaks during your 90-minute classes, but we know sometimes it can be hard to sit still for a long period of time. So feel free to get up and move around a little during class if it helps you to concentrate and stay focused. If you need to leave your screen for a few minutes during class, just let your teacher know in the chat, and don't forget to mute your microphone while you're gone. One goal that I have for every single student at Cornerstones is to have 100% attendance in class. And I know that sounds unreachable, but I also know that coming to class and being active in your learning is the #1 best way to ensure that you're successful in reaching your goals. The best learning happens when you interact with the material, your fellow students, and your teacher all at once. I want you to give yourself the best chance to succeed, and that means coming to class every day and being on time. We're only together for 90 minutes, 3 days a week, so it's important to be logged in and ready to go when it's time for class to start. And you guys all did a good job of that today, so thank you. If there's a reason you can't come to class, please email or call or text your teacher so that they know you won't be coming. You don't have to tell us why. We don't need to know your business, but just let us know that we won't see you in class that day. And one nice thing about virtual and distance classes is that class will hardly ever get called off due to bad weather. The one exception will be those times when there's no electricity or internet access. Hopefully that won't happen. But as we saw last Monday, Zoom crashed for like half the day. So sometimes it does. If it does happen, your teacher will find a way to let you know that there won't be any class. Anybody have any questions so far?
I'm good.
All right. All right. So we all know that life can get pretty messy sometimes, right? Stuff happens that gets in the way of the best plans that we make. But here's one thing I need you to remember. Even though you can't control what happens to you, you are in total control of how you respond to what happens. Okay, that means that you can continue to do your best and keep working towards your goals even when things happen that threaten to throw you off track. So if you have an event in your life that makes it impossible for you to continue in class for a while, don't think about it as failing or dropping out or giving up on your goals. You're not doing any of those things. You're just pushing the pause button for a while. Okay, take a step back, figure out the best way to deal with the circumstances you're in, and then you'll be able to pick up where you left off by coming back to class. Staying in contact with your teacher and your coach when you need to push pause can help you stay connected to your goals. And they can probably help you find some resources to deal with whatever's keeping you out of class temporarily. And they'll get you back into class as soon as possible once you're ready to return. So now I have an important and serious question, and I want you to think about it and then give me an honest, serious answer. How are you feeling right now? Anybody?
I'm feeling kind of excited.
Okay, good. That's a good answer. Thanks, Chase. Asaya, Carissa, how are you guys feeling right now?
I'm feeling good about the situation.
Good, good. So it seems like a simple question, how are you feeling? But it really isn't, right? It's not a simple question, and you probably don't have a real simple answer. You can be feeling a lot of different things at a lot of different times. The reason I'm asking is because thinking about and recognizing how you're feeling while you're in class is one of the most important learning skills that you can use. So how do you think you need to be feeling in order to learn something new? Do you think there's a right way to feel in order to learn stuff?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Would it surprise to you to hear that you don't necessarily have to feel smart to learn something? What if I told you that feeling confused or even a little stressed out can help you to learn? It's all about your emotional state. Emotional states are just the feelings and moods that you experience throughout every day. We all go through hundreds or maybe even thousands of emotional states every day. One researcher described our emotional states as the weather in our brains. So millions of electrical and chemical reactions are happening in our brain all the time, and they form our behaviors much like the wind and sunshine and moisture form the weather patterns. But one major difference between the weather and your emotional states is that you can actually control your states to a large degree. And this is important to realize because your emotional states affect not only how you feel, but what you do, how you act, the decisions that you make, pretty much everything. Usually we can pass through multiple states pretty quickly, and that's mostly because we act to adjust to those states. If we're hungry, we get something to eat. If we're sad, maybe we cry. If we're angry, we shout and maybe swear a little. If we're happy, we smile or laugh. And then our state changes and we react to the new state we're in. But one thing to be aware of is that we can pretty easily get stuck in a state, and especially negative states. And that happens if we're under a lot of stress or feeling threatened by something. And the longer that we're in a state, even a negative one, the more comfortable it starts to feel to us. It feels normal. Even if it's bad and we don't feel great, that feels normal to us. And we just start to think, well, yeah, this is how my life is, right? And then it makes it harder to break out of it. So the hard part is recognizing when we're stuck in a state, and that can be harder than it seems, because most of the time our emotional states are running in the background of our lives, kind of like the hum of all the electronics in your house. You don't notice them, but they're always there. If you can make yourself stop and pay attention to your states, you can learn how to move yourself into more positive states for learning. And they're actually more positive states just for being too. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how to do that. I think one of the best parts of knowing this is that once you realize that you can have some control over your emotional states, you realize that no one can make you feel a certain way. People might try and put you in a bad mood, but when you recognize that you can control your states, you're in charge of your feelings. And I think that's pretty cool. So one of the best states for learning is a feeling of wanting to know more or to understand better. And this can come in a few different forms. Anticipation's that feeling you get when you're waiting for something to happen. You feel a little excited, a little anxious, a little impatient. And when that happens, your brain is actually really ready to learn. Curiosity is a feeling of wanting to know more. You get that feeling when you have questions that aren't answered or some kind of task that's left undone. I love to watch true crime shows on TV, and curiosity is what keeps me watching to the end because I want to see who did it and if they get punished for it, right? And you might be surprised to see that confusion is a positive state for learning, but think about that. When you're confused, that means you're really engaged in the problem. You bought into whatever you're doing and you're really working hard to understand it. Now, frustration can be part of confusion, and you need to make sure that you don't get too frustrated. One way to do that is to continue to ask questions and talk through what you're thinking about until you really understand. Otherwise, you can move out of the productive state of confusion and into a real negative state of frustration, which can lead you to think about giving up. So how do you get into these positive states and stay in them? Honestly, part of this one's on your teachers, right? They need to give you activities and assignments that help spark your anticipation and curiosity. But one thing that you can do is make sure that you're staying alert in class. And there's a couple easy ways to do this. One of them I know you can do. It's breathing. So taking a couple of big, deep, slow breaths, holding them for a few seconds, and then letting them out slowly can help put you into a state of anticipation. It can also help to manage your level of frustration when you start to get a little frustrated. Stretching and physical movement, like standing up for a few minutes during class, also helps to promote a state of good anticipation and curiosity. Okay, for the next part of this presentation, I'm going to email each of you a couple of pages from a book, and I'm going to give you like 5 minutes to study them, and then I'm going to have you come back and report on what you read to the rest of the group, okay? Okay, I'm not really going to do that. But if you just felt a little rush of adrenaline and a little bit of panic, then I put you into our next state, which is a state of high energy or excitement, and it's called yikes. The yikes state is brought on whenever you feel some pressure, and that can be caused by a deadline, a challenge, taking a risk, having to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable, like read something and then present on it in class like 2 minutes later, right? It happens when you get a little nervous, but not totally panicked. So when your brain is in this state, it's really focused and putting all your energy and attention into the task that you need to do. Being in a state of yikes helps you get a lot done in a short period of time, and you remember doing it for longer. Movement also helps to bring this state on. One of the biggest triggers to get into the yikes state is a deadline. When I told you you only had like 5 minutes to read something and report on it, that told you you really would have to hurry. So you'd have to focus in and work hard. Healthy competition also activates this state. Wanting to do well and win, even if there's no prize at the end, puts us in a high energy state. And one easy way to get into this state is to listen to music that pumps you up. Did you know that the beat of music that's fast and happy pumps us up because it actually activates certain parts of our brains to get excited? So it's not just that you like the music, it actually has an effect on your brain that makes you upbeat and feel better. Our next state is really closely located to, or related to the high energy state of yikes. It's called uh-oh. And when you feel a level of concern or a little bit of worry, you're actually in a good state for learning. This happens when you care about the outcome of what you're doing, or you feel you have a feeling of accountability or responsibility for an activity. So think of uh-oh as the state of wanting to do well on something. There's a little stress involved, but again, if you feel too stressed, you're not in a great state for learning. So being responsible for something like being in class on time, getting your work done can put you in this state, and so can having deadlines. Working with a partner or a group can also put you into an uh-oh state because you're responsible for how other people do and not just yourself. The next state, moving on, is actually the transition that helps you go from one state to another. Whenever we switch from one activity to another, our brains need a little bit of time to transition. And being able to do this quickly and without too much stress helps us stay in positive learning states more consistently, even if what you're doing in 2 back-to-back activities is really different. If you've ever had somebody say, let's shift gears now, you are actually being placed into a state of transition. That's what they're trying to do for you. There's different ways to make this happen. Deep breaths or a short walk are a good way to transition. Standing and moving around, stretching, all of those things tell your brain to expect something to change. Writing in a journal or organizing your materials for class are good transition strategies. So is sitting still with your eyes closed for a minute. And one of my favorite transition strategies is called cross-lateral movement. Cross-lateral movement happens whenever you cross the median line of your body. So if I touch my right elbow or my right knee with my left hand, that's a cross-lateral movement because I'm coming across the middle of my body. Or if I tap the back of my left foot with my right toe, it does the same thing. And alternating right side and left side motions for 10 seconds stimulates the two halves of your brain and gets them working together. And that puts you into a great state for learning. It looks goofy when you do it, but just trust me. And if you do that cross-lateral movement for enough time and you touch the top of your head, the top of your head feels really hot because you're stimulating the blood flow between the two halves of your brain and activating both of them at the same time, which I think is kind of cool. The next state is one where you're just feeling really good. It's called, right? You're comfortable, you're satisfied, you're pretty happy. And hopefully you feel this way fairly often. If not, you can get yourself into this state. One of the things that puts you into this state is hearing somebody say that you did something well. Compliments, right? And the best compliments and affirmations are those that focus on our effort, not just the outcome of what we did. So when you hear something good about yourself, it can put you into this state. But the cool thing is, if you give somebody else a compliment, it also puts you into the state. So you're helping them and you be in positive states for learning at the same time. Another thing that can do this is by reflecting on things that we're grateful for, or finding ways to engage in mental relaxation. Exercise also helps to create a state of well-being. We're going to talk about all three of those a little bit later. This next one, we all want to be in this next one as much as possible when we're in class, right? The I got it state is a feeling of satisfaction where you know that you've accomplished something and you're doing well. It makes you feel really confident. If you get good feedback about what you're doing right in class, you get into that I got it state. It helps you feel like you're on track, you're making progress, and it makes you stay motivated to keep working. Another thing that can help stay in I got it state is having time each day to think about what you've learned and to reflect on how you're doing. Reviewing information can also help you enter this state. You ever feel like you've been working and working and working, you haven't learned anything, and then when you do a review or take a quiz, you realize you really do know this stuff? Reviews don't have to just be quizzes, though. They can be things like having a conversation with a classmate or a teacher, teaching somebody else how to do something that you know how to do. That again, benefits both of you. And the last two states for learning are pretty self-explanatory. This first one, peace and quiet, right? You feel relaxed and calm and safe. You're not worried at all about anything. And sadly, usually this state doesn't last very long because we all have things that we're worried about. But it is a key to certain learning activities like reflecting on what you've learned. So again, telling other people they did good work and including specific examples can help put you in this state. So can deep breathing and meditating and activities like journaling and stretching. Planning what you're going to do next is also a really calming activity. So if you're trying to get that peace and quiet state, making a plan for what you're going to do next can help you do that. And our final state is celebration, right? Which is also pretty self-explanatory. Celebrating your accomplishments, whether they're big or small, puts your brain in a positive state to continue learning. And I really think that small celebrations are almost more important than big celebrations. Because let's think about this. Everybody expects a party when they finish their GED, but you also have to have mini celebrations along the way for reaching smaller goals. You need to celebrate when you solve a hard math problem in class. Celebrating smaller accomplishments really helps keep you moving forward. I'm going to open up this handout. I'm going to be sending you guys all of these handouts as well as the slides after our training. So you're going to get all this stuff. So don't worry about having to write anything down or copy anything out. You're going to get an email with all this stuff attached. So you've got it all if you want it. But this one I really like. It's called the Habits of the Mind chart. And I'm going to make it a little bigger here. I think this is a really handy thing to keep with you for if you feel like you're kind of getting out of a positive state for learning. These are some of the things that can help you stay in a really positive, really good place to keep learning. I like it that there's pictures and there's just kind of little short reminders of things that you can do. You don't have to do a lot of reading for this. It's just kind of a cue to help you get back into a good place for how you're thinking about your learning. All right. Any questions so far?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right. So we talked about how you're feeling. That's part of positive learning, right? But also we need to understand really how are you learning? So I want you to think about these two questions. Think of a time you learned something new and what steps did you take to learn it? And then also think of a time you failed at something and how did it make you feel after you didn't reach a goal or didn't accomplish something you were trying to do? And what happened after you failed? Anybody want to share either one of those? A time you learned something new and what steps you took to learn it, or a time that you weren't able to do something and how it made you feel? Not really? That's okay. What would you say though, if I told you that you could learn anything? Anything at all that you want to learn, it's possible for you to do it. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. I like that. We're going to see if we can watch this video. It's been loading kind of slow today, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Nobody.
It always starts too soon. There we go.
Nobody's born smart.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Nobody's born smart. We all start at zero. Can't talk, can't walk, certainly can't do algebra. Adding, reading, riding a bike. Nobody's good at anything at first. There was a time when Einstein couldn't count to 10. And Shakespeare had to learn his ABCs just like the rest of us. Thankfully, we're born to learn. Slowly, surely, you stumble, slip, crawl, fall, and fail, and fall. Frustrating, confusing, trying, struggling, until one day, you walk. One foot in front of the other, one idea on top of the next, each wrong answer making your brain a little bit stronger. Failing is just another word for growing, and you keep going. This is learning. Knowing that you'll get it, even if you haven't gotten it yet. Because the most beautiful, complex concepts in the whole universe are built on basic ideas that anyone, anywhere, can understand. Whoever you are, wherever you are, you only have to know one thing. You can learn anything.
All right. So, do you believe that you can learn anything?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. That's a good attitude to have. And I think that, if you really stop and think about this, it makes a lot of sense. Because before Tom Brady could win a bazillion Super Bowls, he had to learn to throw a football. Before Mark Zuckerberg became a Facebook gazillionaire, he had to learn to type and then use a computer and then understand coding and software development. everyone starts out not knowing the stuff they need to know to do amazing things. So let's just spend a few minutes brainstorming about things that we've learned to do and the things we needed to know in order to learn them. So I'll start. I know how to bake a pie, which sounds like a simple thing until you try to bake a pie, right? A lot of things can go wrong. I learned how to bake pies from my mom. And before I could learn to bake a pie, though, I had to understand how to read a recipe and how to use measuring cups and spoons so I could measure the ingredients correctly. Because if you don't measure stuff right when you're baking, it can just, everything turns out bad. It can go really bad really fast, right? So anybody else have something that they learned to do and then things that they needed to know before they learned it?
Kind of know how to fix a car, I guess.
Okay, so what did you have to learn to do before you could learn to fix your car?
um, Quite a few things really. Learn how to diagnose the problem
Okay,
and then use the resources to find out how to fix it, I guess.
yeah, very good. And those are all skills that cross over into other things that you can do, right? Those are basic problem solving skills that you can use to solve any problem, not just dealing with cars. So how do we learn new things? We learn by building one skill on top of another and keeping going, even though we make mistakes, and practicing and growing our brains. Um, I remember when I was trying to learn to do algebra, it was so hard and it didn't make any sense to me. And I felt like I would never understand what I was supposed to do. I can remember sitting at the dining room table in our house and literally crying while I tried to do my homework. Luckily, I had a really great dad who was good at math and who was also just incredibly patient. And he sat with me and explained it to me over and over in different ways until finally I understood how to solve an equation. And one of the things he taught me was that there are different ways to think about math problems. And thinking about an equation in a way that made sense to me in the real world could help me to know if my answer made sense. So it really took all these things, a lot of hard work and effort on my part, a lot of help from my dad, the willingness to try different ways of looking at the problem in order for me to learn the skill of solving equations. But before I could even begin to learn that, I had to know how to add and subtract and multiply and divide, or I wouldn't have had the skills I needed to even start to learn how to solve an equation. So that's how we learn new things. And I think sometimes it's good for us to remind ourselves of that. I want to do a quick survey of you guys. So I'm going to copy this link and paste it into the chat. So it's in your chat box now. If you just click on that link, it'll take you to this survey. There are no right and wrong answers in this survey, okay? There's 14 questions. And I want you to go through, answer them all honestly, the best that you can. And again, no right or wrong answers. You're going to get a score at the end, but it's not a grade, okay? And when you're done, you can just type in the chat box that you're done. All right? All right, everybody's done. So thank you guys for doing that. So this is an assessment of your mindset. We all fall somewhere on a scale between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So if your score was high on this assessment, you have a pretty fixed mindset. And if your score was low, you have a growth mindset. So what does that really mean? The idea of mindsets comes from about 50 years of research by a woman named Carol Dweck. She's an education researcher who was studying how students cope with failure. And she kind of accidentally found through this research that some students really love challenging hard work. Like when they got a hard assignment, they were excited and happy and they couldn't wait to get started. Other students, when they got a hard assignment, would just shut down completely and they wouldn't want to do it. And what she learned through her research was that a person's mindset has a lot to do with how they learn and how they persist when they have to learn hard stuff. So a person with a fixed mindset believes that people are born with a fixed set of intelligence and skills and talents. So in other words, you're born with a limit on how smart you can be and how much you can learn. Often when you're faced with a challenging situation, people with a fixed mindset work really hard to avoid failing at it or looking stupid. And as a result, they really don't take advantage of the situation to learn something new or to have a new experience. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset generally believe that with practice and perseverance and effort, they have unlimited potential to learn and grow. In the growth mindset, working hard maximizes your intelligence and skills and talent. And people with growth mindsets are more inclined to tackle challenges, and they believe that making mistakes and overcoming obstacles are really the way that we grow. We all operate with both fixed and growth mindsets. In fact, sometimes being asked to do certain things will make the most growth-oriented person kick into a very fixed mindset. Carol Dweck actually did an experiment on this with a group of teachers, and she asked them to draw a picture of their favorite animal. And they immediately, they would hide what they were doing so that nobody else could see. And they started complaining like, oh, I can't draw. I'm no good at drawing. I've never been able to draw. Nobody's going to be able to tell what it is. I'm just going to draw something easy. They all went straight into fixed mindset, even if that wasn't normally how they thought. So there are certain activities or certain things that people ask us to do that can really trigger us into thinking like, oh, I just have to not look stupid here, right? But if you find that your predominant mindset is fixed, don't worry, because you can change your mindset to think in a more growth-oriented way. It's really just a matter of changing the way the voice in your head talks to you when you're trying something new or learning something hard. And once a person learns to foster a growth mindset, you can see failures as just opportunities for improvement instead of sources for disappointment. Growth mindset understands that we all have more skill at some things. So like reading was easy for me, but math was hard. But it also understands that all skills can be built up with experience and effort and can lead to success regardless of our natural starting point. So an example of that is I learned to do math and I kept learning math. And for the last 21 years, even though I still don't really like math that much, I've been able to teach other people how to do math well enough so they can pass the GED test. That's an example of a growth mindset. My experience and my ability wasn't limited in learning math just because it was hard for me. I was still able to do it. So people with a growth mindset don't get discouraged when things are hard or things go wrong. They understand that mistakes are one of the best ways to learn. And even if it feels like we're not making much progress, we're still learning and growing our brains. So I want to practice a little here. Let's look at some fixed mindset thoughts that most of us have probably had at one time or another and see if we can think of a more growth-oriented way to approach these feelings. So the first one is, math is not my thing. Okay, I felt this way a lot when I was trying to learn to do algebra. I'm not good at math. It's not my thing. So instead of thinking that math was not my thing, maybe I could have thought, you know, I don't understand this yet, but I just need to keep working at it. I can get there. I can get better. Okay. The next one, I'm not good at this. Have you ever told yourself that? Oh, I'm just not good at this.
Couple times.
A couple times. What could you say to yourself instead that would really be more growth oriented? Instead of I'm not good at this, what could you think?
Oh, let's try again or keep trying.
Yeah, keep trying, keep going. I can get better at this. I can do this. How about this one? She's the smart one in class. You ever thought that about somebody? Instead of just thinking that somebody's smarter than you, what if you thought, oh, she must be working really hard. I wonder how she's studying. Maybe I should ask her what she's doing to learn this because it seems like she's got a handle on this. I need to talk to her and find out what I could do. If I could do the same thing she's doing, then I could learn this easier too, right? This one, scores mean more than growth. I think this one is tricky when you're working on your GED because the GED is all about getting a certain score, right? There's a passing score. So this is hard for GED teachers too, to not think this way. But really, one of the things that we try to remember and we try and help our students remember is if you do the work, if you put in the effort, you're going to get the score, right? Think about what you're learning and the things that you're doing and the things that you're practicing, and the score will come as a result. You don't have to aim for the score. You have to think about doing the work and you'll get the score. This one, it's better to look smart than to take risks. You ever thought about that before? Or are you get the kind of people that like doing risky things?
Little, I guess.
A little, yeah, and that's a good way to be. If you never take a risk, you're going to miss out on an awful lot of really great stuff, right? So it's important to remember that taking risks can be a positive thing sometimes. I'll never be that smart. What could you say to yourself instead of that? How about, I can grow my brain? I like that one instead. I'll feel dumb if I'm corrected. Like if somebody catches something I did wrong, I'll feel really dumb. I find myself thinking that sometimes. Like I hate when I make mistakes and other people catch them. It bothers me. And instead I should think, oh, this is awesome. Now I know the right way, right? Now I know what my mistake was and I can fix it. And this last one, if I ask a question, everyone will know how dumb I am. You ever think that when you're in class?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. And that nothing could be further than the truth. The best way to learn is to ask the questions that you have and to keep asking until you understand. Truly, it's the best way. And teachers hate when you don't ask questions because then we don't know what you need help with understanding. So don't ever stop yourself from asking a question because you think it's dumb. Odds are 3 other people in the room have the same question as you, right? All right, so part of understanding the power of the growth mindset is understanding how our brains actually work. So one of the things that people think is that you're born either smart or dumb, right? And that's a myth. Your brain does not have a maximum capacity for how much it can learn or hold. And one person's brain isn't better than another's at birth. All of our brains have the ability to continue to grow throughout our lifetimes. And just like you can lift weights and build up a really impressive bicep, you can work your brain and build up connections that help you to learn and learn faster and easier. So think about walking through the woods. It's hard to get anywhere if you're in the woods in some place that doesn't have a path. You have to push through brush and avoid obstacles like fallen trees or big rocks. And the whole time you're getting smacked by branches as you push your way through. But if you walk on that same path every day, after a few days, the grass gets walked down and you can see the obstacles more clearly and navigate around them. You can trim the branches back so they stop whacking you in the face, and it's way easier to go that way. Eventually, if you keep doing this, you have a well-worn path that's easy to walk down. And in fact, it doesn't take much effort or concentration to follow the path because it's so well used. And that's actually a really good metaphor for what happens in our brains as we learn. When your brain's working, it's sending signals through neurons. And these neural pathways develop when you learn something new. Your brain starts on a new pathway, sending signals out to carry whatever task you're learning. The more you work on that task, so the more writing or reading you do, the more math problems you practice, the faster and easier those signals can move through those neural pathways that are used for the task. The pathways get more familiar to your brain, and it takes less and less effort to carry out the task because the signals are flying down a familiar road. It's like driving down the interstate. And your brain never loses this ability. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can still make new neuron connections and build new pathways in your brain. And here's my absolute favorite part of brain research and learning. Joe Bowler, a math professor, actually found that when students make a mistake in math, it triggers a whole bunch of brain activity that doesn't happen when they get the right answer. So making a mistake, they've actually proved that making a mistake makes your brain grow more. So for years, people have been telling you that mistakes are how you learn, right? They're absolutely correct. Making mistakes and struggling to learn actually teaches us more than just cruising through easy stuff and getting right answers. So the next time you have to work hard to get through an assignment, don't be discouraged. Just think about how strong your brain is getting. We're going to continue to work on building and keeping a growth mindset. But I want you to think about being positive and thinking about those positive states while we work now on setting goals. I know that each of you has goals because you're here. If you took the initiative to register for classes and take a TABE test, you must have a goal to improve your academic skills, right? But I want to work with you to set some really specific, really fantastic goals that are going to help you to maintain a growth mindset and stay motivated to work through tough times. So let's talk about setting goals. I want you to consider setting what we call gutsy goals. Gutsy goals ask you to think big. So if your goal is getting your GED, don't just think about getting a passing score. Passing on the GED is a 145 on all 4 tests, right? Perfect score on the GED is 200. College ready score on the GED is 165. So a gutsy goal for getting your GED might be to get at least a 165 on all 4 parts of your GED test. The idea behind setting gutsy goals is that even if you don't reach the goal, you go further than you would if you set a normal goal. So if you set a goal to pass all 4 sections of the GED with at least a score of 145 and you fall short, you don't get your GED because 145 is the minimum passing score. If you set the gutsy goal of getting at least a 165 on each section of the GED and you fall short, odds are you still get your GED. So that's an example of a gutsy goal that focuses on results. You can also set gutsy goals for a specific process that helps you reach your bigger goal. A process goal is based on specific actions that you can complete that'll help you to achieve your main goal. So remember when we talked about attendance and I said my goal for all of you would be to attend 100% of classes? That's a gutsy process goal. You have control over attending class and it's a specific action that you can complete. You can also set gutsy goals for relationships or relational goals, which are goals for how you relate to other people in your life at home or at work, as well as at class. I'm going to send you this handout called Gutsy Goals for Students that has space for you to work on all 3 kinds of goals. Research shows that setting this type of goal leads to twice as much growth as setting a normal goal. And we not only believe that you can reach these goals, we're committed to helping you get there. We're going to do everything within our power to help you reach beyond what you think you're capable of to get to your true potential. And if this kind of goal setting is scary to you, don't worry. We're going to talk about making a plan for what to do just in case you fall short of a goal. We're going to talk about that more in just a minute. I bet most of you have heard of SMART goals. This is a framework for setting goals that's been around for a while. The growth mindset has us think about SMART goals in just a slightly different way. So your gutsy goals need to be specific. You have to really focus in on what it is you're working to accomplish. That's why we don't just want your goal to be, I'm going to get my GED. That's actually pretty general. But your goals also have to be measurable. You have to be able to point to data that tells you when you've achieved your goal. This can be pretty easy with most process and result goals, but it can be harder with relational goals. Your goal needs to be amazing. This ties right into the gutsy part. Getting your GED is great, but getting a college-ready score on every part of your GED is amazing. You need to aim high. Your goal also needs to be relevant to your life and your situation. And that calls on you to reflect, really. How will passing your GED with a high score impact your life? How's that relevant to you? Being able to answer that question about any goal you set is critical to keeping you motivated when the going gets tough. And finally, all SMART goals need to be time-bound. You need to set yourself a deadline that you're shooting for. Having a deadline gives you a sense of urgency. And remember, when we learned about positive states, you need a little bit of yikes to keep you working hard and moving forward. So a SMART and gutsy GED goal might look like this. I will earn my GED by getting a college-ready score on each section of the test so I can get a promotion to supervisor at work. I'll complete this goal in the next 12 months. I'm showing you this handout that's called Make Your Goals Smart that has space for 3 different goals and all of the reminders about how to make your goals smart. You can use that to set your goals if you want to. So once you've got a big, smart, gutsy goal, you've got an end in sight. But how are you going to get there? It's exciting to set that big goal, and it's awesome to think about getting there, but it's really hard to stay motivated to reach that goal if you don't set smaller goals that will help you to see your progress as you work towards it. You can't wait until you get to the end to have something to celebrate, and that's where micro goals come in. Micro goals are exactly what the name suggests. They're tiny goals that lead you to your bigger goal. They're specific, concrete goals that you can reach within a week to help you reaffirm a specific skill or show measurable progress towards your gutsy goal. Micro goals are a great source of feedback to you because they let you see how far you've come and what you need to work on each week in order to keep moving towards your goal. They can be tied to data like scores on assignments or number of days or hours working on a skill, which makes them valuable in gauging your progress. And you can base your weekly micro goals on strategies for learning new materials. Because you're going to review them on a weekly basis, you're going to realize when something isn't working and you need to find a different strategy in order to perfect a skill. And just like your other goals, micro goals need to be something that's going to take some effort and work to achieve, or they're not going to help you grow. Don't make your micro goals too easy. Remember that reaching further helps you to make more progress. And again, research shows that setting micro goals that require effort to meet each week can help you achieve twice as much as you could without those goals. You've got a couple of handouts I'm going to send you. This one that I'm showing you right now is called Gutsy Goals with Micro Goals, and it's a checklist. So at the top, you write your gutsy goal, and then you can see all of the things to make sure that your goal is a SMART goal, and then space to write your micro goals and how you'll celebrate the achievement of those micro goals and milestones as you reach them. Once you set your gutsy goal and micro goals, you're going to need a way to track your progress. And that's where 3M feedback comes in. The 3M feedback process has you look at the 3 most essential questions that people always ask about their learning. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there? And it ties each one of those to an M word: milestone, mission, and method. So let's look a little closer at these 3 pieces. So your milestone is where am I? Think in terms of a math assignment. When you did the review at the end of the chapter, you got 6 of 10 questions correct. That's where you are today. Your mission is what your goal is. Your goal for the review should always be to get 100% if you're trying to meet that gutsy goal of college ready on your GED, right? And if it's a review, you should have already learned this material. The method then is, how do I get there? You'll need a new strategy for the section in the math lesson because what you did didn't get you to your goal. So it's time to discuss a new strategy with your teacher and to set some fresh micro goals for what you need to learn. Because you're using data to determine your progress, you don't have to worry about not knowing you've made progress. But it's hard sometimes to figure out what method to use to improve your learning, especially when you get a little stuck. So in addition to some sheets for tracking your goals, I also gave you a poster of student learning tools that you can use to figure out some different strategies to try. So ask more questions in class, do a review, summarize your learning every day so you can go back and use that to review. Look up different concepts, ask the teacher for specific help. When you get stuck, it's important to go through and try and figure out what kinds of things you can try to get unstuck. Your teacher is always your first resource for this. They can help you try different things to really master the material that you're working on. And then you remember when, remember when I told you that if setting a big gutsy goal made you nervous, that we were going to plan for what to do in case you didn't meet your goal? That's what the if-then plan is. Nobody likes to fail. Failure to reach a goal is enough to make us give up our growth mindset and wallow around in self-pity for a while. When you work really hard and you still don't make it, sometimes you feel like it's not even worth trying anymore. So that's why it's important to set out on your path to our gutsy goals with the idea that the road won't be easy. And gutsy goals are gutsy because they're hard to reach. So before we even start, in addition to making a plan A for reaching our goal, we also need a plan B and a plan C. If you start out by thinking ahead to the obstacles and setbacks that might get in your way now, before you've even started working on your goal, you'll have a much better chance of dealing with them if or when they happen. That's what an if-then plan is. You think of things that might stop your progress towards your goal, and then you come up with several ideas for each one of those that can help you deal with that event if it does happen, right? So what could be a challenge that would stop your progress from working on your GED and completing your GED in the next 12 months? What if your computer breaks? What might you do then? Do you have another computer at your house that you could use? Do you have a friend or family member that might let you use their computer? Do you know somebody who fixes computers who could take a look at it and maybe help you out with it? Having those ideas in mind really helps you, because then if something does happen, it's not like it's a shock and you don't feel like you have no idea what to do. You've thought about things that might go wrong. You've come up with plans to address them. So you know that you can keep going because you're going to find a way to fix it and move on. It seems kind of backwards to plan for failure before you even start working on your goal, but research shows that people that do if-then planning are far more likely to reach their goals than people who don't. Any questions? Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still here. No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to wrap up our session today by looking at a way to get a positive start on your learning experience and to build up habits that'll help you maintain those positive states in the future. So I have a challenge for you, okay? We talked a lot about positive emotional states for learning and maintaining a growth mindset. And if you think back to those parts of our discussion, you're going to remember that there were some behaviors and activities that were pretty common to the positive states and growth mindset. Writing in a journal, practicing deep breathing, thinking of things we're grateful for, receiving and giving compliments, reflecting on what you've learned, reviewing, meditating. Those were all listed in multiple areas. Doing all those things on top of what you're already doing might just sound like too much work, but I'm going to promise you spending 10 minutes a day in some simple activities can make a world of difference to your learning. Now, there's research to back me up, but I'm going to go one step further than the research, and I'm going to do all these things along with you. So for the next 21 days, we're all going to try to build a habit of doing some journaling, some physical activity, some stress relief that won't only help our learning, but will also just make us feel good in general. So here's how it works. I want you to have a notebook that you use for a journal, and it doesn't have to be anything special, just a regular spiral bound notebook, like the 7-cent ones that you buy from Walmart on the back to school, right? It can be the same one you use to do your classwork, or it can be a separate one that you just use for your journal. And for the next 21 days, every day, I want you to enter these things in your journal. They're up on the slide on your screen, but I'm also going to send you a copy of them. So 3 things that you're thankful for. Thinking about the things in our lives that are good or that help us is one of the easiest ways to enter and sustain a positive state. These don't have to be big, huge things. Maybe one day you're grateful that your alarm went off and you were able to get to work on time. That counts, right? Sometimes the small things are the ones that have the biggest impact on our day. And writing down 3 things that you have to be grateful for every day helps you to see and remember that you're doing okay. And if you've had a bad day, finding 3 good things that happened is especially important. It reminds you that even when things seem bad, there's always a little bit of good. You're also going to write about one thing that you've learned or a positive experience you've had in the last day. This lets you reflect on what you've been doing in class and the progress that you've made. If you've ever feeling stuck and you think you haven't learned anything, you can flip back through your journal and remind yourself of all the new things you've learned since you started class. It can help you snap out of that negative state of feeling discouraged and keep you moving forward. Write down one thing you're looking forward to. And again, this doesn't have to be a big earth-shaking important event. Maybe your favorite TV show's on tomorrow night. Maybe you're cooking one of your favorite things for supper tonight. Maybe somebody else is cooking supper tonight so you don't have to cook, right? Even having little things to look forward to helps you maintain that positive state. Every day, make a note of some kind of exercise or physical activity that you've done. And I'm not asking you to join a gym or run a 5K, right? But physical activity is really, really good for our brains. So think about things like taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Get the vacuum out and run it around the house. Do a load of laundry. Housework is actually really good, beneficial physical activity. So is yard work. Mow the lawn, pull some weeds. Just go out and walk around the block a couple of times. Any kind of physical activity stimulates the areas of your brain that lead to positive states for learning. Take a few minutes every day to do some kind of meditation. And again, I'm not asking you to go nuts here, right? One of the easiest ways to meditate is just to spend 2 to 5 minutes concentrating on your breathing. Breathing in deep and slow, holding it, letting it out slowly, letting your mind go blank. There are apps like Calm and Headspace that give you short guided meditation sessions for free. But really, one of the easiest ways to do this is just set a timer for 5 minutes, close your eyes, and do deep breathing until the timer goes off. The medical and brain-related benefits of even a couple of minutes a day of this kind of meditation are really amazing. It lowers stress and blood pressure. It releases chemicals in your brain that make you feel good. I really hope you're willing to give it a try for the next 21 days. And then finally, every day, try to do one random act of kindness for someone. And again, this doesn't have to be something that costs you money or anything, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. But remember, when you compliment or help someone, it benefits you too. I know this can be kind of hard in the age of COVID, but I'm pretty confident that you can find ways to do it. So tell somebody you see in a Zoom meeting or in a parking lot or in a store that you like their outfit or their face mask. Give somebody some positive feedback on social media. Thank your checker at the grocery store or the gas station for the work that they do. Clean out your closet and give the stuff that you don't use anymore to a friend, or donate it to Goodwill or Salvation Army. Help a classmate out with an assignment. All of those things count, right? So again, I'm going to be doing all these things too and journaling about them over the next 21 days. I'm planning to pop back into classes about once a week to check in on how you're doing and see if you have any questions. And I know you all can do this. I know you can be successful in reaching your goals. I believe in you and your teachers believe in you, and I hope you believe in yourselves too. I know that you guys have got this. You're going to do great. So does anybody have any questions about anything that we've discussed today?
Not me.
No? All right. Do you have any questions about your classes that are starting either tomorrow or Wednesday?
Are you going to be the teacher for that, or someone else?
No, I am not. Actually, that's a really good question. I'm doing the orientation for everybody, but if you are in the fast track class, Nikita is going to be the teacher that starts out with you, and then you're going to have another teacher who follows her. We have 2 teachers named Karen, so one of the Karens is going to come after Nikita. I'm not sure which one is going next, though. but Nikita will be your teacher on, I think that's tomorrow, right? Yes, tomorrow. So she'll be with you tomorrow afternoon. She was planning to be here today for orientation, but she had to go to a funeral. So that's why she's not here right now. You're going to use this same link to come to class tomorrow, though. So you'll just click on the same link and come in. Class starts at 5 o'clock tomorrow, though, instead of 4:30. Okay.
Are they going to teach every subject or just one?
They're going to teach several subjects. They're going to do them one at a time, though. So I think Nikita's going to start out by teaching some language arts. Those are good questions. Any others?
I think
All right.
that was it for me.
Huh?
I think that was it for me.
Okay, good. You should all have email and phone numbers for your teachers, and my email address is on the screen. And again, I'm going to be sending you all this stuff once we're done too. So you'll have an email from me that you can reply to if you need to. Feel free to email me anytime. We're all part of the Cornerstones team. We're all working to help you reach your goals. So you guys are in the driver's seats, but we're here to support you every step of the way. All right.
Sounds good.
If you don't have any other questions, I'm going to let you go. Get on with the rest of your evening. I really appreciate your attention, guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your day and a really good week.
Awesome.
All
Yeah,
right.
you're a good one.
Thanks. We'll see ya.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.